Ethan Reed stood at the edge of the training field, feeling the weight of 100 alien eyes on him. As the only human in the Intergalactic Academy, he was an oddity, a relic from a world deemed unremarkable by most of the galaxy. The Academy was a place where the best and brightest from dozens of civilizations came to learn, compete, and grow. Here, prowess in advanced technology, combat, and strategic thinking was celebrated. Unfortunately for Ethan, these were areas where he struggled. The Vrixian instructor barked commands in a guttural tone, his multi-limbed form intimidating. Ethan's classmates, a diverse mix of towering Kregites, lithe Xeranthians, and telepathic Athanrians, performed the exercises with practiced ease. Ethan, on the other hand, stumbled through the routines, his movements awkward and uncoordinated compared to the fluid grace of his peers. "Ethan, you must focus," the instructor roared, frustration clear in his voice. "Your performance is unacceptable." Suppressing a sigh, Ethan redoubled his efforts, but his heart wasn't in it. The snickers and whispers from his classmates cut deep. They saw him as weak, a failure. Even the Xeranthian girl he had tried to befriend looked away, embarrassed by his incompetence. As the session ended, Ethan lagged behind, gathering his things slowly. He overheard a group of students talking about him, their voices tinged with disdain. "Can you believe they let a human in here?" one of them said. "He's hopeless, probably only here because of some diversity quota." Ethan clenched his fists, anger and humiliation boiling within him. He wanted to shout back, to prove them wrong, but he knew his current abilities wouldn't back up his words. Instead, he walked away, determined to find a way to change their perceptions. The texts detailed ancient human martial arts and philosophies, disciplines long forgotten by most of the galaxy. Intrigued, Ethan began to study these practices, finding a connection to them that he had never felt with the alien technologies and combat styles. The movements felt natural, the philosophies resonated with him, and for the first time he felt a spark of hope. Every night, while his classmates rested, Ethan trained in secret. He practiced the fluid motions of Wing Chun, the powerful strikes of Muay Thai, and the strategic thinking of Jiu-Jitsu. His body began to adapt, his movements becoming more precise and controlled. He also meditated, honing his mental focus and discovering an inner reservoir of strength. Weeks turned into months, and while his daytime performance at the academy remained mediocre, his nighttime training transformed him. He felt a growing power within him, something raw and untapped, waiting to be unleashed. The day came when Ethan decided to test himself. During a particularly grueling training exercise, he faced off against Vakar, a hulking Kregite known for his brutality. Vakar sneered at Ethan, ready to make an example of him. The training field fell silent. Ethan stood there, breathing heavily, as his classmates and instructors stared in shock. For the first time, he had shown them a glimpse of his true potential. The murmurs of disbelief echoed across the training field as Ethan Reed stood over the fallen Vakar. The energy that had erupted from him moments ago still crackled in the air, a tangible reminder of his newfound power. His classmates, who had dismissed him as a weakling, now looked at him with a mixture of fear and awe. The Vrixian instructor, recovering from his own shock, approached Ethan cautiously. What was that?" the instructor demanded, his eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Ethan shook his head, still trying to comprehend what had just happened. "I don't know," he replied honestly. "It just happened." Before the instructor could press further, the crowd parted to reveal Admiral Kraak, a towering figure known throughout the galaxy for his strategic genius and formidable presence. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he observed Ethan, taking in every detail with a piercing gaze. "Cadet Reed, follow me," Kraak ordered, his voice leaving no room for argument. Ethan nodded and trailed behind the Admiral, feeling the weight of countless stares on his back. They walked in silence through the Academy's corridors until they reached a secure, secluded room. Inside, Kraak motioned for Ethan to sit. "You have just demonstrated a power unlike anything we've seen from a human," Kraak began. "Tell me, how did you come to possess such abilities?" Ethan recounted his late-night training sessions, his discovery of ancient human martial arts, and the meditation practices that had unlocked something deep within him. Kraak listened intently, his expression thoughtful. "I see," the Admiral said finally. "It appears you have tapped into a latent potential unique to your species. This could change everything." Kraak stood and began pacing the room. "The Federation is on the brink of war with the Xandarians. We need every advantage we can get. I believe your abilities could be the key to turning the tide in our favor. But first, we must unlock your full potential." Under Admiral Kraak's guidance, Ethan's training intensified. Kraak, a master tactician and seasoned warrior, took a personal interest in Ethan's development. He introduced Ethan to advanced alien technologies and combat techniques, integrating them with the human martial arts Ethan had mastered. The training was grueling, pushing Ethan to his physical and mental limits. Kraak also arranged for Ethan to train with some of the best soldiers and strategists in the Federation. These sessions were intense, often bordering on brutal, but they honed Ethan's skills to a razor's edge. His classmates, once dismissive and scornful, now watched with a mixture of respect and envy as Ethan's prowess grew. One evening, after a particularly exhausting training session, Kraak led Ethan to a hidden chamber deep within the academy. The room was filled with ancient relics and advanced technology, a fusion of the past and future. In the center of the room stood a pedestal with a small, glowing orb. "This," Kraak explained, "is an artifact from an ancient civilization known as the Anorix. It is said to amplify the latent powers within any being who can harness its energy. Many have tried, but few have succeeded." Ethan approached the orb cautiously. As he reached out, he felt a surge of energy coursing through him, resonating with the power he had discovered within himself. He closed his eyes, focusing on the energy, and felt it merging with his own. The room around him seemed to fade away, replaced by visions of distant galaxies and ancient battles. When he opened his eyes, he felt a newfound clarity and strength. The orb's energy had unlocked something within him, amplifying his abilities to a level he had never imagined possible. Kraak observed him with a satisfied nod. "Your potential is even greater than I anticipated," the Admiral said. "With your new abilities, you can become a force for good in this galaxy. But remember, power comes with responsibility. You must use it wisely." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of Kraak's words. He was ready to embrace his role in the coming conflict, knowing that he had the strength and the will to make a difference. The Federation was counting on him, and he would not let them down. The mission began with a briefing in a dimly lit room deep within the Federation's headquarters. Holographic maps and data projections filled the space, detailing the layout of the Xandarian base. Kraak and a team of strategists outlined the mission parameters, emphasizing the importance of stealth and precision. "You'll be dropped on the outskirts of the Xandarian territory," Kraak explained. "From there, you'll need to make your way through their defenses undetected. Retrieve the data from their central command and extract it. Failure is not an option." Ethan nodded, absorbing the gravity of the task. Equipped with advanced cloaking technology and a multi-purpose tool for hacking, he set off on his mission. The journey to the Xandarian stronghold was fraught with danger as he navigated through enemy patrols and avoided detection by automated surveillance systems. As he neared the stronghold, Ethan's training and newfound powers came into play. Using a combination of human martial arts and alien combat techniques, he dispatched guards with swift, silent efficiency. His ability to sense and manipulate energy allowed him to bypass security systems and gain access to the inner sanctum of the base. Inside the command center, Ethan located the main terminal. As he began extracting the data, alarms blared, signaling that his presence had been detected. A squad of Xandarian soldiers stormed the room, weapons drawn. Ethan fought valiantly, using his enhanced abilities to fend off the attackers while completing the data transfer. With the information secured, he made a daring escape, narrowly avoiding capture. Returning to the academy with the critical data, Ethan expected to be greeted as a hero. Instead, he found a tense and suspicious atmosphere. Admiral Kraak met him in a secure room, his expression grim. "We have a problem," Kraak said, handing Ethan a datapad. "This data reveals a conspiracy within our own ranks. Some of our highest officials are working with the Xandarians, planning to overthrow the Federation from within." Ethan's heart sank as he reviewed the information. The conspiracy reached the highest echelons of the Federation, implicating figures he had once respected and admired. The traitors had been feeding the Xandarians strategic intelligence, ensuring the Federation's defenses would be compromised when the invasion began. "We need to act fast," Kraak continued, "but we can't trust anyone. We have to gather more evidence and expose the traitors before it's too late." Determined to root out the corruption, Ethan and Kraak devised a plan to gather incriminating evidence against the conspirators. However, their efforts did not go unnoticed. The traitors, aware that their plans were at risk, moved swiftly to neutralize the threat. Ethan soon found himself the target of a coordinated assassination attempt. Ambushed by a group of elite mercenaries in a secluded part of the academy, Ethan fought for his life. The battle was brutal, with Ethan using every ounce of his training and power to survive. Despite his skill and determination, the numbers were overwhelming and he was captured. Taken to a hidden location, Ethan was subjected to intense interrogation and torture by the traitors, who sought to break his spirit and extract information about his knowledge and plans. Refusing to yield, Ethan endured the pain, his mind focused on the mission. In the depths of his captivity, Ethan encountered Zura, an alien prisoner who had also fallen victim to the conspiracy. Together they plotted their escape, sharing their knowledge and resources. Zura's unique abilities complemented Ethan's, and their combined efforts led to a daring breakout. Fighting their way through the enemy base, Ethan and Zura liberated other prisoners, gathering crucial allies and additional evidence of the conspiracy. As they made their way back to the Federation, they knew the battle was far from over. The traitors were still in positions of power, and the true extent of their betrayal had yet to be revealed. Hidden among the dense foliage of an alien jungle, a squad of heavily armed mercenaries, loyal to the conspirators, awaited their arrival. The trap was sprung with terrifying precision. Energy blasts tore through the trees, and grenades exploded around them, sending shards of metal and wood in every direction. "Take cover," Ethan shouted, diving behind a large boulder. Zura followed suit, her agile form barely a blur as she moved. Pinned down and outnumbered, Ethan and Zura fought back with everything they had. Ethan's enhanced abilities allowed him to deflect incoming attacks and strike back with deadly accuracy, while Zura's alien physiology gave her the speed and strength to keep the mercenaries at bay. Despite their valiant efforts, the relentless onslaught began to take its toll. Ethan was hit by a stray blast, the searing pain momentarily blinding him. Zura, noticing his distress, covered him, her movements a flurry of defensive maneuvers. "We need to move," Zura yelled over the din of battle. "They'll overwhelm us if we stay here." Ethan nodded, gritting his teeth against the pain. Drawing on his inner reserves of strength, he unleashed a powerful energy wave, creating a temporary shield around them. It was just enough to buy them a few precious moments. Together, they dashed through the jungle, using the terrain to their advantage. The mercenaries pursued, but Ethan and Zura's combined skills and intimate knowledge of the area allowed them to outmaneuver their attackers. They laid traps and doubled back, whittling down their pursuers one by one. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of running and fighting, they managed to lose the remaining mercenaries. Exhausted and wounded, they found a hidden cave where they could regroup and plan their next move. "We can't stay here long," Ethan said, wincing as he bandaged his injuries. "They'll send more after us." Zura nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "We need to get this evidence to Admiral Kraak. It's our only chance to expose the traitors and save the Federation." Resting only briefly, Ethan and Zura resumed their journey under the cover of night. Their path led them through treacherous terrain, but they pressed on, driven by the urgency of their mission. As dawn broke, they finally reached a Federation outpost, hidden deep within the mountains. The outpost commander, a grizzled veteran named Captain Marn, greeted them with skepticism but listened intently as Ethan and Zura recounted their ordeal and the evidence they had gathered. Marn quickly realized the gravity of the situation and pledged his support. "We'll get you to Admiral Kraak," Marn said. "But it's going to be risky. The traitors have eyes and ears everywhere." Using Marn's resources, they devised a plan to transport the evidence securely to Federation headquarters. Disguised as cargo transporters, they traveled through a network of covert routes, avoiding major checkpoints and surveillance. Their journey was punctuated by several close calls. At one point, they were stopped by a Federation patrol loyal to the traitors. Ethan's quick thinking and Zura's ability to mimic different alien dialects helped them bluff their way through the encounter. Finally, after days of tense travel, they arrived at Federation headquarters. Admiral Kraak met them in a secure bunker, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "You've done well," Kraak said, reviewing the evidence. "This is more than enough to expose the traitors. But we need to act quickly before they realize what's happening." With the evidence in hand, Kraak and his loyalists launched a swift and decisive operation to root out the conspirators. Arrests were made, and the traitors' communication networks were dismantled. Public trials were held to ensure transparency and restore trust within the Federation. Throughout this turmoil, Ethan and Zura remained vigilant. Their actions had placed them in the crosshairs of the traitors' remnants, who were desperate to silence them. But with the support of Kraak and the Loyalists, they continued to fight, determined to see their mission through to the end. With the traitors exposed and removed from power, the Federation began to stabilize. However, the threat of the Xandarian invasion still loomed large. Admiral Kraak called a meeting of key Federation leaders and strategists to discuss their next move. Ethan and Zura were among those present, their presence a testament to their critical role in recent events. "We need allies," Kraak stated, his voice resonating through the war room. "The Xandarians are too powerful for us to face alone. We must form alliances with other civilizations that oppose their expansion." The room was filled with murmurs of agreement. Kraak continued, outlining a plan to reach out to various alien races that had previously maintained a neutral stance. Ethan and Zura were assigned to spearhead these diplomatic missions, given their unique perspectives and proven capabilities. Their first destination was the planet Trelos, home to the technologically advanced and fiercely independent Trelosi. The Trelosi had remained neutral in the conflict, valuing their autonomy above all else. Convincing them to join the Federation's cause would not be easy. Ethan and Zura approached the Trelosi Council with a carefully prepared speech, emphasizing the mutual benefits of an alliance and the shared threat posed by the Xandarians. They also showcased the evidence of the Xandarians' brutality and plans for domination. The council deliberated for what seemed like an eternity. Finally, their leader, High Chancellor Vorex, spoke. "We Trelosi value our independence, but we are not blind to the threat the Xandarians pose. We will join your alliance, but we expect mutual respect and aid." With the Trelosi on board, Ethan and Zura traveled to other potential allies, including the warrior race of Dravonians and the telepathic Zelanthians. Each negotiation was a delicate balance of diplomacy and strategic persuasion, but one by one, the alliances were forged. The newly formed coalition gathered for a grand summit. Representatives from each race pledged their support, and plans for a coordinated defense were set in motion. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of hope and determination, as the diverse civilizations united against a common enemy. The coalition's efforts culminated in a massive military campaign to repel the Xandarian invasion. Fleets of starships, battalions of soldiers, and advanced weaponry from across the galaxy converged at the Federation's border, ready to face the impending onslaught. Ethan, now a respected leader and strategist, was placed in command of a special operations unit tasked with striking at the heart of the Xandarian forces. Zura, his trusted partner, was by his side, coordinating efforts with the other allied forces. As the Xandarian armada approached, the tension was palpable. The allied fleets moved into position, creating a formidable defensive line. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the Xandarian ships emerged from hyperspace, dark and imposing against the backdrop of the cosmos. The battle began with a ferocity that shook the void. Energy beams and missiles streaked across the battlefield, illuminating the darkness with deadly brilliance. Starfighters weaved through the chaos, engaging in dogfights with their Xandarian counterparts. Ethan's unit received its orders: infiltrate the flagship of the Xandarian fleet and disable its command center. The mission was perilous, but Ethan knew that success could turn the tide of the entire battle. With Zura coordinating from their command ship, Ethan and his team launched their assault. Dodging through the intense crossfire, Ethan's team breached the Xandarian flagship's defenses. Inside, they faced relentless opposition from elite Xandarian guards. The corridors of the ship became a brutal battleground as Ethan led his team deeper into the heart of the vessel. Reaching the command center, they encountered the Xandarian Admiral, a towering figure clad in imposing armor. The ensuing battle was fierce, with Ethan using every ounce of his enhanced abilities to combat the Admiral's formidable strength. The clash was intense, but Ethan's determination and skill ultimately prevailed. With the command center secured, Ethan's team planted explosives and transmitted a signal to the Allied fleets. The resulting explosions crippled the Xandarian flagship, causing confusion and disarray among the enemy forces. Seizing the moment, the Allied fleets launched a coordinated counterattack. The Xandarian armada, now leaderless and disorganized, began to falter. One by one, their ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. As the battle raged on, Ethan and his team fought their way back to their extraction point. With the flagship collapsing around them, they made a daring escape, returning to the Allied command ship just as the final Xandarian vessels were vanquished. Ethan, now a recognized hero and a symbol of unity among the Allied races, was summoned to a war council led by Admiral Kraak. The council included leaders from the Trilosi, Dravonians, Xylanthians, and other Allied civilizations. The atmosphere was tense as they discussed their next steps. Our intelligence indicates that the Xandarians are massing their forces for a direct assault on our central command, Kraak began, pointing to a holographic map. We must strike first and cripple their main base of operations on the planet Xandar Prime. The room fell silent as the enormity of the task sank in. Xandar Prime was heavily fortified, protected by advanced technology and a vast army. The plan required precise coordination and unwavering bravery. Ethan was tasked with leading the ground assault, targeting the central command hub to disable the Xandarian leadership and communication systems. The Allied fleets mobilized, moving swiftly through hyperspace to Xandar Prime. The battle in space commenced almost immediately upon their arrival, a dazzling and deadly display of firepower and strategy. Amidst the chaos, Ethan and his Special Operations Unit prepared for their drop to the planet's surface. Descending through the atmosphere in drop pods, Ethan's team landed amidst heavy anti-aircraft fire. They hit the ground running, immediately engaging in fierce combat with Xandarian ground forces. The terrain was rugged and treacherous, filled with natural obstacles and enemy fortifications. Ethan's enhanced abilities once again proved invaluable. He led his team through a series of tactical maneuvers, outflanking enemy positions and neutralizing key defenses. As they approached the central command hub, resistance intensified. The Xandarians, aware of the strategic importance of this location, threw everything they had at the intruders. Reaching the command hub, Ethan's team fought their way inside. The corridors were a labyrinth of high-tech defenses and well-trained guards. In the command center itself, they encountered General Varnak, the formidable Xandarian leader. Varnak was a towering figure, exuding both physical power and tactical brilliance. The confrontation with Varnak was epic. Ethan's team engaged in a brutal firefight, while Ethan faced Varnak in close combat. The Xandarian general was a formidable opponent, his strength and combat skills matched only by his ruthlessness. Ethan drew on every ounce of his training and powers, the battle pushing him to his absolute limits. In a climactic moment, Ethan unleashed a devastating surge of energy, overwhelming Varnak and leaving the general incapacitated. With Varnak defeated, Ethan's team quickly planted explosives throughout the command hub. As they made their escape, the building erupted in a series of explosions, crippling the Xandarian leadership and causing chaos within their ranks. With the central command hub destroyed, the tide of the battle began to turn. The Xandarian forces, disorganized and leaderless, struggled to mount an effective defense. The Allied forces pressed their advantage, pushing deeper into Xandarian territory and securing key strategic points. Despite the successes, the cost of the battle was high. Casualties mounted on both sides, and the devastation was immense. Ethan, exhausted but driven by the urgency of the mission, received a distressing update. The Xandarians had activated a doomsday weapon deep within their primary fortress, a superweapon capable of obliterating entire fleets and planets. Realizing the catastrophic potential of this weapon, Admiral Kraak called for an immediate strike to neutralize it. Ethan, understanding the gravity of the situation, volunteered for the mission. He knew that the weapon had to be destroyed at any cost, even if it meant sacrificing himself. Ethan's team, reduced in number but unwavering in resolve, infiltrated the fortress. The path to the superweapon was fraught with danger, guarded by the last remnants of the Xandarian elite forces. Every step was a battle, every corridor a potential death trap. As they reached the chamber housing the superweapon, they found it guarded by an impenetrable energy field. The controls to deactivate the field were located in a secondary control room, heavily fortified and deep within the fortress. Ethan led a small contingent to the control room, while the rest of his team prepared to sabotage the weapon once the field was down. In the control room, Ethan faced another grueling fight. The defenses were automated and relentless, but with determination and ingenuity, he and his team managed to deactivate the energy field. Rushing back to the weapon chamber, Ethan saw the superweapon's activation sequence nearing completion. Realizing there was no time to fully disable the weapon through conventional means, Ethan made the ultimate decision. He ordered his team to retreat, knowing that only a direct, suicidal assault could prevent the weapon's firing. With a heavy heart but unwavering resolve, Ethan charged into the core of the weapon, channeling all his remaining energy into a focused, devastating attack. The resulting explosion was blinding, a massive shockwave tearing through the fortress. The superweapon was destroyed, its threat neutralized. The price, however, was Ethan's life. His sacrifice had saved countless lives and secured a crucial victory for the Allied forces. Admiral Kraak convened a council of the Allied leaders to discuss the next steps. The war room, filled with holographic maps and tactical displays, was a somber place. Representatives from the Trilosi, Dravonians, Xalanthians, and other Allied races sat around the table, their faces reflecting the toll of the conflict. "We have won a critical victory, but our work is far from over," Kraak began, his voice steady yet tinged with sadness. "The Xandarians are not entirely defeated. Their remnants still pose a threat, and we must ensure that they do not regroup and strike again." High Chancellor Vorex of the Trilosi nodded in agreement. "We must also address the devastation caused by the war. Rebuilding efforts need to commence immediately, and support must be extended to all affected civilizations." The Council discussed a comprehensive plan to stabilize the region. Humanitarian aid and reconstruction projects were prioritized, with resources and personnel from all Allied races committed to the cause. The Coalition's fleets were tasked with hunting down any remaining Xandarian warships and securing the galaxy against future threats. As plans were laid out, a holographic image of Ethan appeared in the center of the room, a tribute to his sacrifice. Kraak spoke, his voice filled with reverence. "Ethan Reed's heroism and sacrifice will never be forgotten. He exemplified the spirit of unity and courage that has brought us together. In his honor, we must continue to strive for a galaxy free from tyranny and fear." Memorials were erected across the Allied worlds, commemorating the fallen heroes of the war. Ethan's story became a legend, inspiring future generations to stand against oppression and fight for justice. His name was etched into the annals of history, a symbol of hope and resilience,